David, the mayor of Austin, the de facto mayor of Austin, Texas, and founder of Internet Marketing Party, and just super connector, and yeah, awesome to have you on the show. It's just
Hey,
great to
thanks
see
for
you.
having me, and I appreciate you having me. It was nice. We were just having dinner, and when you told me about what you're up to, and I appreciate you inviting me to come on.
Yeah, no, man, just like you've had on stage, so Internet Marketing Party has been running for what is it, 15 years now?
Yeah, 15 years every month without a miss.
That's insane. That kind of
Yeah.
consistency. Without it
Yeah,
for 15
you know,
years. No,
one of the
yeah.
things when we celebrated our 15th anniversary, people came up to me and they're like, "Man, I just want you to know I feel so like vulnerably speaking, I actually feel intimidated by how consistent you've been. What's the secret?" And I've just basically said to them, I wish that I could resonate with that because there's been things that I tried to be consistent at and couldn't. So I think the real magic that there is that, it's something that every single month is fun. It's enjoyable. It's it keeps me coming back. Sure, every month there, I mean, out of 15 years, there's been a couple of times where if I wasn't hosting it, I wouldn't go.
Mhm.
But I it's probably kind of like for anybody that works out regularly, like there's many times when you don't feel like going to the gym, but you never really regret having gone after the fact, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's what it's been like for 15 years for, every month doing this. Like when you think about it, the people we've had on our stage has been Craig Clemens, Jay Abraham, Tai Lopez, Ryan Perry, Roland from, Digital Marketer. We've had, Alex Hormozi on our stage. We've had Tucker Max, Noah Kagan, Ian Stanley, like I don't know. We should probably not include Ian in that list of names with all those actual real talented people. But
He'll love hearing that one.
let's not kid ourselves. Ian's not going to listen to this.
Yeah, exactly. He'll never even know.
So we could say all kinds
You
of
say
messed
whatever
up
you want
things
about
about
Ian. Yeah, I got a text from him. He said, "Hey, it's the real Ian." It's he
him.
texted me. Oh, it's funny.
Well, let's get
Yeah,
back to
yeah. Back.
actual
Yeah,
actionable value for people so that they
yeah.
don't tune out like Ian
Totally, totally,
will.
totally. No, I mean, it's insane. I mean, the power of bringing people together. I mean, you go there, you meet, you make friends, you see so many cool ideas being shared. You go home, you want to implement them. You see people on the stage sharing stuff. You see people meet people in the, off stage, having drinks, whatever.
Yeah.
Just an amazing sort of melting pot. And honestly, I never thought about this, but there's probably it's not an exaggeration to say that when you started Austin was not the sorry when you started Austin was not the hub of digital marketing that it is today. So I imagine that Internet Marketing Party played a big role in actually creating that sort of environment that's so fruitful for these kinds of things.
Well, I don't tend to be somebody to toot my own horn, and I've had countless people tell me that they moved to Austin because they were coming from some random place like Minnesota or, Kansas or something, and they were involved in internet marketing, and they were like, they'd see one of the videos or something, and they're like, well, I think I should go to Austin because they do it every single month there, and they knew that they would just be a plug and play community here for them, and yeah, I do feel kind of proud of that, that
Yeah.
there's been a lot of people that have said that's actually what influenced them to move here.
And it makes sense. I mean, the power of in this sort of virtual world we're in, where we're doing these businesses online, to actually meet face to face with people and exchange ideas and make
Yeah.
these connections is super powerful. I'm just curious. So, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from the folks you've had on stage? I mean, you mentioned Craig Clemens of Golden Hippo, Hormozi, Noah Kagan from AppSumo. You got the founder of WP Engine, billion-dollar company, Tucker
Yeah.
Max. Yeah, what are some of the things that you just over looking back over 15 years, just some highlights and some of the take
Huh.
homes that you've had?
You know, one of the one of the simplest ways to distill that would be, interestingly enough, as a side effect of hosting Internet Marketing Party, because about 3 years in, um, I don't let people pitch from stage, right? And we don't make people fly in from around the country, and I don't let, they pay for their own flight and their own hotel. And a lot of the people that are on our stage are people that normally get paid to come in and speak.
Yeah.
Um, and so people ask me, how do you do it? Well, about 3 years in, I started realizing that the caliber of speakers we were attracting, I needed to give them something more than just a stage to speak on because they got used to being paid. So I started asking them, hey, what's your biggest challenge? What's the biggest bottleneck in your business that I can support you with? And with my network, and well, how are you going to do that? And then I came up with this cool thing referred to that I started calling the Internet Marketing Party think tanks. And what I'd do is I'd ask them about a month in advance, and according to what they answered, I'd put them in a room, a closed door, invite only, you can't pay to attend room. And you know this because a couple of years ago I invited you to one, and you flew in all the way from Sweden to be one of the experts, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so what I do is like if somebody says, "Hey, I'd like to," my business is very affiliate driven, and I know that that's a it's not a safe place to be. I think I should be more figure out how to do paid traffic, and then I ask them about their niche and what kind of volume they'd like to be at, and then I'm like, okay, well, let me curate people who are great at scaling offers quickly to up to $1 million a month in paid traffic. And then I'll only put those kinds of people, ideally in their niche, in the think tank. Or if somebody says, hey, you know what? I'm looking at replacing myself in my business because, my wife is, wanting to travel more or whatnot, then I'll only bring people who are very experienced or who have exited or replaced themselves in a business before. And or another the third example would be like these after the last 13 years, like these are things that are real. Some people come in and say, hey, I've got a business partner that when we started the business together, they were bringing a lot of value, but here we are 4 5 6 years later, and they're either addicted to drugs or they're going through a divorce or they're just not pulling their own weight, and I don't want to keep building a company where the more the money I like some of these people come in and they're like, I've been putting in like 80% of the effort in this company and they're still making 50%, and there's no sign of it's actually more and more. The further we go, it's going to be me 90%, them 10, and they're just sitting fat and happy on their laurels. And so how do we change that? And so I'll bring in people who are great at exiting companies, mergers and acquisitions, and figuring out how to create, scenarios where they had the people who have been in companies where they had a what we would call a conscious decoupling in a marriage. And so I will only bring in people who have done the thing that the expert that the challenge is as an expert, or people who have helped a lot of people with that challenge successfully. And so the beautiful thing about these think tanks is, and this is something that you at home listening can apply in your life, is you can actually get people who are good at what you are looking to, like, don't just talk to smart people. You got to go and find people who have done what you're wanting to do and invite them to come and support you in a round table type session. But there's a structure to it because it's otherwise it's just popcorn style, like people like, oh, this is what I think you should do, right? Tony Robbins has a saying, and that is the quality of your questions is directly proportionate to the quality of your life. Now, that's a writer downer, and that's one that you can take with you. Because if you look at your life right now and you ask yourself, is my life the way I want it to be on a scale from 1 to 10 in the area of relationship? Is my life the way I want it to be in the area of finance, in the area of fitness, in the area, like go through the main areas of your life that way. And if it's less than a 6 or 7, chances are pretty good that the questions you're asking yourself around that arena of your life are pretty low quality. And you might want to take an audit, a journal of what are you asking yourself. If you're 80 pounds overweight, What kinds of questions are you asking yourself around fitness? And you might not even realize that you are, but it comes with like, do you ask yourself like, oh, what would taste best for dinner? And what's the best way to relax? And how can I feel good? Or are you asking yourself, hey, what's the healthiest thing I can put into my body to get rid of this excess weight? So those are some simple examples, right? But like the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. Well, when you bring it back down to what I've been doing with these speaker think tanks is for the first hour of the think tank session, we're not allowed to give any suggestions or ideas or solutions to the person's problem. And it's a really unique scenario because very rarely when someone's facing a problem, do they have a team of 5 to 10 experts around that specific problem. Now, this isn't the same as being in a mastermind because in a mastermind, once you're in a 20, 30, $50,000 a year mastermind or $100,000 a year mastermind, chances are that the people in that mastermind are going to be smart, talented, skilled, experienced, right? But you're going to have one person that's a big, that's got a supplement, another person that an Amazon and another person that's a affiliate, another person that you know what I mean that runs a big agency. So they've all been successful, but if the thing you're struggling with is something that maybe not all of them have dealt with, they're going to have decent advice, but it's not advice from experience, right? So that's one of the facets. But now imagine you've got 5 to 10 people who are experts at that specific thing, and they're not able to give you a solution for the first hour. They're now competing like Titans, Clash of the Titans type situation for who's the smartest person in the room. And I got to tell you, when you have 8 to 10 entrepreneurs all in a room, they get competitive and they get to benefit because they're asking themselves, how do I end up as the smartest man, smartest person on the totem pole here? And they just get really positive and creative because they want to. There will be some point in that think tank where somebody just does a mic drop question where they'll go, let me ask you a question. What made you start this business in the first place? And no one's thought about asking that question. And they go, you know? And sometimes that's where the tears will start streaming down the person in the hot seat's face. And you were there at the think tank we did for a specific person who shall remain nameless because we always agree. Here's another thing we do is we make everyone give a gentle person's agreement that what happens in the think tank stays in the think tank. And that's one of the things that makes these really unique is that people know that if they go around talking about what happened in these things in the ones I do that I curate, that like their name's gonna be mud because it's like, dude, don't be sharing what happened in here, and we never record them because then people are willing to say like if somebody's like in the hot seat and they're about to hire an agency or a consultant or an advisor or even an internal C-suite executive or somebody to run a part of their business, somebody in that room, when they're an expert, their chances are pretty good they're going to know all of those people and they're going to go stay away from that piece of shit because they screwed me over and a bunch of other people, or, they put themselves out there like they talk a big game, but they're really not that good at what they do. Here's 3 resources you can use that I will vouch for. And everyone else in the room will go, yeah, stay away from that piece of shit. Or like, oh man, I vouch for those resources too, right? So it creates this vortex of value that I've never seen anywhere else. Like think about it. Ian, if you needed to hire a CMO, a CFO, a COO, if you needed to hire um, anything, or you like a consultant or an advisor, chances are good. How are you going to hire that person? You're going to talk to them one on one, right? And then they're going to either really be good at pitching you on what they do or they're not. And if they are, then you'll hire them. And then once you hire them, what do you got? You got their best thinking they have is what you have as your solution, right? But what if they're like they're in the NBA, but they're like a third round draft pick versus Michael Jordan. Like you don't know who you hired, versus if you've got Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and two or three other NBA greats like competing in front of you in real time for what's the best strategy for winning an NBA championship.
Yeah. And the fact
That's
that,
that.
and so and just to be clear, so before this whole before they you start the think tank, you're asking the person who's going to be the on the hot seat, what's your biggest challenge?
Oh
how do
yeah,
you,
like
yeah, how do you frame that?
that happens about a month beforehand. Like
Hmm.
this isn't something where you just like, oh, we're all here, we should help. No,
No. Yeah.
people aren't allowed into that. Like the one you came to that you flew in from Sweden just for that, which I always brag about. The person that was having a think tank was wanting to figure out, they figure out how to make their YouTube channel crush, right? Like
Yeah.
that was their main focus for the year. So I had Kyle Lasota, I had Chris Encarnacion, I had you, I had Leon Hendricks, who built the channel to to 1 million within 6 months. I had Chris Encarnacion used to work at Six
Johnson.
Pack Shortcuts. Yeah. I had Johnson who worked at Six Pack Shortcuts. I had you who like I had Alaric Heck. I had like so everyone in that room was an expert around YouTube and has clients that are experts at YouTube that have built very, very successful channels and that have built viral channels. And so it was like that's how that works. You don't just bring in like, oh, well, let's bring in this person because they're smart and they're in a lot of masterminds, or let's bring in this person because I like them and they're going to be offended if I don't invite them. This isn't a cool kids club thing. In fact, I have a lot of friends throughout the years that have kind of felt slighted because I didn't invite them to somebody's think tank. And it's like, bro, like I I've lost some friends because they were that offended that they didn't get invited. And I was like, I don't invite people according to whether they're my friends or how cool they are or how smart they are. I invite people according to how how much experience do they have at that specific problem. So curating people for a specific problem and having them battle it out in front. See, because the thing about it is normally you've got like when you go to any event, you've got a speaker who's an expert in front of an audience, whether it's 10 to 1,000 people in the audience, right? We flip the script with the think tank, and this is what you can do as well, which is you be the person that would normally be in the audience in the hot seat and have an audience of people who would normally be on the stage talking about a specific topic. Now, there's a structure to this if you wanted to model it. Um, how am I doing, by the way? Is
This
this
is great.
useful?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Oh,
Okay, cool, cool. So the structure to it is first of all, you would get really clear on the challenge in advance. Then second of all is you would, find people who are experts at that. And do not just go with like people who are like, oh, well, they're smart. They've been in business for a long time. No, it's got to be people who are experts at that thing, right? And then get them to come. And you don't do this over Zoom. It's got to be in person and
mhm.
it's not recorded. And there's some guidelines as far as like how to structure it for, um, setting up ground rules, which is, getting permission from the person in the hot seat to tell them what they need to hear versus what
Mhm.
they want to hear. So there's a lot of little nuanced things, but I don't want to get too lost in the details.
Sure.
This gives you enough structure to be able to do it. And then at the end of the day, what you end up doing next is you go around the room and say, "Hey, let's all go." And for 1 hour, there is no solutions allowed. So we go, "Hey, what are we solving for here?" And then go, let's start with for 1 hour, and I set the timer for clarification questions. And they're off. It's like dun, da, 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 take off. The firing gun is going. And guess what? People start asking questions like, what's your revenue? How many employees in your company? But then you start getting into the real juicy stuff like what are you pretending not to know to make this problem like stay there? And what haven't you tried because you're afraid to? And that's when like the waterworks start coming. And so, but once we do get, then there'll be a period where there'll be a portion of the think tank where somebody will just like, I know the answer. I know exactly how to help this. And they kind of get dejected because they're like, and then at some point within 15 to 30 minutes, someone will ask a question that you just see the person that was so confident that their solution was the way, they'll just melt and go, oh shit. I
Mhm.
didn't think to ask that question. And the answer to that question creates absolute clarity for the person in the hot seat. And it makes the solution, quote unquote, that the person that was so eager to provide a solution irrelevant.
Mhm.
Now, the other thing that I've noticed is that the people that go into these hot seats, are want more than anything, they want growth and they want scale and they want to overcome their problem and they want that to happen fast. But what they don't realize is that speed is not, or time is not one of the elements in fast change and growth. The element that matters more than anything is clarity. And that's what the experts are there to do because the people with a challenge, if they had clarity, they wouldn't have a challenge, right? And so I love that quote by Keith Cunningham that says, a good solution is smart. A good question is genius because a good question creates solutions, it creates alternatives, it parts the seas so that you can take action with momentum and clarity, right? And so what ends up happening is once almost every instance of these think tanks, the person comes in with a problem that goes like, "Oh, I need to scale. I need to figure out how to hire a CEO. I need to do affiliates instead of paid traffic. I need to replace myself. I need to break up from this business partner. I need whatever the thing is that they're struggling with, right? Or I need to grow my YouTube channel, right? Whatever it is, right? I can't remember the last time that there was a think tank that within 20 to 30 minutes of the 1 hour of questions, that there wasn't a case that people realized that the problem that they thought they were solving for was not the actual problem.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what does that imply? There was no clarity around the actual problem. So the first thing we do is we actually like get clarity on what are we really actually solving for? What's the actual problem? And one example is there's somebody who runs a very successful digital marketing agency. And I don't want to go too much more detail than that, but they had some business partners that they basically knew that in order to get the company to profitability that they needed to be at, they needed to basically hit a $10 million mark.
Mm.
And they were stuck at 2.5. And they were absolutely adamant that the solution they needed was to figure out what are the ways that they could build their agency to a $10 million agency. Well, we had people in that think tank that were people like Jason Cohen, the founder of WordPress Engine, WP Engine, which is they do $1 million a day. They're a $1 billion company with offices in London, Austin. They've got over 1,200 employees. You had in that room Tom Shipley, who has built a $100 million company, had a big exit, and is the main advisor to Josh Snow at Snow Teeth Whitening. You had Ron Lynch in that room. I mean, you had titans, literal business titans in that room in our industry anyway. And they all basically said, no, you need to not be doing this agency the way that you're doing it. What you need to do is actually bring on clients that are willing to let you take a part of their company And because the amount of energy and time that it would take for you to scale their company from a low seven figures to high eight figures, you could do that in your sleep with your hands tied behind your back versus you 5xing the size the revenue of your existing company that you've been trying to. That
Hmm.
would be the equivalent to asking Michael Jordan to win another seven championship rings. It's like
Hmm.
not very likely.
Hmm.
And he didn't want to hear it. But it took him a few days after the think tank to finally realize, oh, that's what I need to do. And
Hmm.
then he came up with a solution. But the first thing he needed to do was get clarity. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that
Yeah.
quote too. I think you said it from stage today as well. That quote about not that it's not about time or speed, it's about clarity. Just that massive,
Yeah.
massive shift for
I
sure.
want to acknowledge my one of my best friends, Jesse Elder. He's the one that helped me make that really fine distinction, that clarity around that distinction, because I've talked around it a lot, but he helped me really distill it to that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think that's something that everyone could take to heart and also play around with, with mentors and peers that might be in your space. But if you have an opportunity to have, I'm talking about billions of just Ron Lynch, selling like however many $1 billion in revenue he's generated, um, and WP Engine, $1 billion company, all these people, Titans actually thinking about your business. Um, that's an incredible opportunity itself. I mean, but it doesn't stop there, right? Like this is
Right.
something that
No,
you
because
continue
that's
to
just the
do.
first hour.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
first hour where we're asking clarification questions.
yeah.
And um then we move to finally one, like think about it. If I ask you, hey, Ian, what's important to you about your software company? And you tell me one layer. And then I'm
Mhm,
like, well, what's important to you about that? What's important
mhm,
to you about that? We go 5, 6 layers deep. Not only will you probably be having tears stream down your face, but we'll get to the actual core, right?
mhm,
Then once we understand that, we understand what your revenue is, when we understand how many people on your team, we understand who reports to who, we understand all these really vital questions, then we're finally in a team of 8 to 10 experts in a position to give you advice. And that's what we do for the next 2 hours
mhm,
is give advice that then it becomes a matter of me really just um I would say holding the attention and the space and making sure that the room stays on track because sometimes there'll be people who want to just let's face it, some people take up a lot more space.
mhm, mhm,
They're gonna want to garner a lot more attention. I love Ian Stanley, but like there's certain people like if I put you and Ian Stanley, the two Ians in a room and your advice is genuinely more suited, wiser, and from a direct experience. Ian's very competitive and he'll want to, and he also likes to this isn't even like a bad thing because he's funny and he's engaging, but like you're more quiet, you're more reserved. It's my job as the facilitator to tell Stanley, hey bro, like I want to hear from Naj. You're laughing because you remember me doing this with different people, right? Like, so it's not just a matter of finding out what the challenge is. It's not just a matter of asking clarification questions and setting up the guidelines. It's not just a matter of getting solutions. It's also a matter of facilitating the whole thing in such a way that you keep people who like to talk a lot in check, and you people who are really quiet, you pull them out and just really navigating the room in such a way that everyone gets a chance to talk and that if somebody starts pulling too much attention that you can kind of keep them in check and be like hey, and you kind of there's a place where I established that like hey, I might be what sounds rude to you throughout the think tank, but know that we're here for the person in the hot seat.
mhm. Yeah.
So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, totally. I think people can definitely play around with that. And then, I mean,
And then at the very end is we
yeah.
create accountability. We
Mm,
say, hey, what are you willing to be held accountable for? And what are the things that, yeah, that you took away from this? Because sometimes um what they're hearing, the person in the hot seat, they're drinking like from a fire hose.
Yeah.
So what they're hearing might not be what the experts are saying.
Hmm.
So I kind of like to, like, as we start winding down towards the end, is saying, hey, what did you hear? What are the biggest insights, breakthroughs, and realizations and actions you're planning on taking? And sometimes, like, it's like it's close, but it's not quite a bullseye.
Yeah.
And so that's another element. And then once we get it dialed in, then we get them to say, hey, by when will you have this? Because sometimes what they really need to do is go and fire their CEO, or they need to go. And sometimes people will go into that room and realize that they need to get divorced from their spouse.
Mm.
Sometimes people go into that room and the end of it realize that they need to sell the company that they thought they needed to grow. Sometimes they go into that room and realize that they need to buy out their partner that is their what who they think is irreplaceable. So I mean, these are really intense sessions. This isn't like tiddlywinks, and this is not just another like, yeah, let's figure out your optimization strategy for increasing your conversions. This is this is I like to call these sessions, it's one third expert board of advisors, one third therapy, and one third ayahuasca. And we're not actually taking any drugs or anything. It's more a matter of like the depth of soul crushing, at times, recognition of like what they need to actually see to make transformation happen can be not pleasant. And sometimes it can cause rage, it can cause sadness, it can cause confusion, it can cause anger, and or like it can even also cause like fear, like deep fear. And so to have that team of experts and a good facilitator holding this room solid and grounded and safety is a big part of it. So, and those are things, that's wording you normally hear used in a ceremony for psychedelics.
Yeah,
But
but that's the power of having all that human intention focused in the same direction for that period of time. And yeah,
yeah.
that's it's awesome. So, that process is pretty incredible. And obviously it's one of many things that you have going on that you're involved in, but I wanted to talk about the this process has been so transformational for so many people over 12, 13 years that
Hmm.
really curious to hear you talk about how you have you taken it to the next level beyond that to another level of
Yeah.
intensity and transformation.
Yeah. Um, so there's actually a cool story around it. And by the way, when you say transformational, like um we've had like Adrian Brambilla had his first $1 million day as a result of doing a think tank. The one I just told you about. Adrian talks about his publicly, but like there's some people that I know that that have, like, one person was stuck at the $2 million range as an agency owner and was trying to hit 10 million. And literally within 15 minutes, Alex Sharfin and Brandon Poland from Lady Boss, Kaylin Poland's husband, were able to, within 15 minutes, identify and reveal and discover that this person had a person that was running the sales floor in his company that he had been friends with since he was in college. And they had grown this to a $2 million company with a big office and a lot of employees. And on the surface, it looked like they were crushing it. But he didn't know how come he couldn't get to the $10 million range. Within 15 minutes, they figured that out. By 30 minutes, he decided he would fire them. And the next morning, he fired that person. And now he's like hit that next range, that
Wow.
next. Yeah. I mean, these are normal stories. I mean, I've had people decide that they needed to get divorced, people like, and so it's crazy. But yeah, for the 15th anniversary internet marketing party, if this is where you were going, where you were asking me about my question, of like taking it to the next level, is what ended up happening is I have a business coach that said, David, for the 15th anniversary, I think it would be cool if you asked people if they would be interested in doing a 3-day deep dive excursion with you for $10,000 or something like that. And like, if you got 10 people to do that, you'd make 100 grand. And but just just basically talked to, there was 500 people, 400 or 500 people at the 15th anniversary party. Just talk to them and say, hey, I'm going to do this. If you're interested, you know, I'll send you a link. If you're not, I'll never bring it up again. Well, guess what? The whole event came and went, and I completely forgot to talk to anybody about it. I thought my coach was gonna
Yeah.
fire me, and he's like,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna punish you more than you can punish yourself. So
Yeah.
the way you can make it up to me is call those 20 people, because he asked me to make a list of 20 people. But I was
Hmm.
just having so much fun, I forgot. Long and the short of it is, I called the 20 people. I called the first six people I called. All said yes, I'm in. And I was like, holy shit. Called my coach back, and he's like, all right, that's awesome. And then I realized I hadn't actually charged them, so I needed to call them back and like get paid. But anyway, um, I decided that I would do think tanks for them.
Hmm.
And so that's where this thing called the 3 day think tank was born. And that was the first weekend of December of 2023. Sold it out within a month. So it was as of November the 1st, I had already sold all 10 seats, because I do it in a 18,000 square foot, 10 bedroom mansion called the Gatsby Mansion. It's got a helipad, it's got pickleball courts, it's got two game rooms. We bring in a private chef, and it's just like the ultimate lavish luxury. And I only have ten rooms, and doing 10 think tanks over the course of a weekend is a pretty big deal. So, that was cool, and it was so much fun that I decided to do it again. So in March of 2024, the first weekend, March 1st through 3rd, I'll be doing my second one. And it is, as of today, Friday, January the 12th, and I've already sold five of the 10 seats. So I feel pretty good about that. It's exciting, and I haven't even talked to that many people yet. Last time I talked to 50 people to get the first 10 seats sold. This time I think I've talked to seven people to get five of the seats sold. So at this point, I'm kind of more looking for experts for the people that already purchased.
Yeah. And that's insane. I mean, just some of the experts you had billions of dollars in sales and giant companies and
Yeah.
very profitable smaller companies with incredible lifestyles, et cetera, all coaching these folks for these sessions.
Yeah, the cool thing is, by the end of these sessions, by the way, the people that sign up for these 3 day think tanks, something that I wasn't expecting was going to happen. They all said, "Hey, if anybody that's here for the weekend wants to sit in as a spectator on my think tank, you're welcome to do so."
Mhm.
So basically, they not only got a think tank, they also got a mastermind, like, because the whole like staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning talking with all the other people who got a think tank. But then they also got to watch the other people go through their think tank experience. The relationships that were formed, it's like an extended family. It is crazy. And they all get to network with the experts that come in for the other people's think
Mhm.
tanks, and have lunch, breakfast, dinner, and drinks, and all the things in the hot tub. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how I got on that tangent. What was it you said?
Yeah, I mean, just the level of experts that you're bringing in for each of these people. You're
Oh,
curating a board of, yeah.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say is the experts, they love coming to this thing, because people are like, how do you get the experts to come to this thing? And I'm like, well, the I've been doing it every month for 13 years, so I've had so many people that sat in as a speaker that got a think tank, so they know what it's like, and then they wanted to give back as an expert. And then when they came in as an expert, they realized some of the experts will tell me that they got more value from being an expert than they know that the person in the hot seat got.
Just saying a lot.
And we're talking about people that are running like really, really successful companies. So yeah, interestingly enough, like if any of your audience is interested, I don't know if it's okay for me to
Yeah,
share
yeah,
the
please do.
website, but
I was going to
it's
ask you for
called
that.
3daythinktank.com.
Number three.
And
So number
yeah, the
three
number the
day.
number three. Not I need to probably buy 3 Day Think Tank with a spelled out. I didn't even think about that till now. I should go buy it right now because your
Yeah.
listeners are going to be like, I want to sell it to
I'll
him
sell
for
it back to you for a free spot in
exactly.
the think tank.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, what was I gonna say? I'm so passionate about these things that one of the things I said tonight was, because tonight was the internet marketing party. I was so passionate about this that I actually didn't go out to the bars afterwards with everybody so I could record this with you. And that's, I don't know about you, but like there's been times, many times in my life where I planned either, like a big birthday for myself or someone in my family, or when I got married or one of the bigger internet marketing parties, or anytime that you like, or a product launch or a business launch, where it's like pouring all of yourself, all of your energy, all of your attention into something for months at a time, 3, 4, 6 months, and then the thing happens, the product launch, the birthday, the anniversary, or in this case, the 3-day think tank. And in every instance prior to this, I've always had an emotional or psychological hangover the next day of like, oh, now what? Like there's this big gaping hole that used to be filled with a lot of activity and engagement and problems and solutions. And then it's like, poof, it's gone, right? Now it feels like, well, what now? When I woke up the next morning, after the 3-day think tank was over, I felt completely full, completely happy, completely filled with joy. And I talked to my coach and he said, dude, you know what that means? I said, what? And he's like, you're doing your life's work. This is what you were like, this is your thing. And it's like, I love doing it because everybody benefits. The experts benefit, the person in the hot seat benefits, I benefit. And now that we're doing these 3-day think tanks, even the other, well, I call them navigators, they benefit. And it's just this like vortex of benefit and value and joy. It's so cool. So
So 3 day, so number 3-day thinktank.com, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. And so this is for anybody that's running, the least would be at least $500,000 a year company.
Mhm.
And we've had people that are up to 50 to $100 million. I know it's a pretty big range, but based on the experts that I can curate, it's a pretty, and like this is the kind of thing where you got something in your business that you're struggling with, that you're like, oh, I keep banging my head against the wall, and you think, or maybe even if things are going well, but you're scaling and
Mhm.
you know that like scaling fast leads to challenges, and you want to figure out in advance what are the things, what are the road, what are the road bumps and the potholes in the road and the sharp turns that you are going 100 miles an hour that weren't that big of a deal when you were going 20, 30, 50 miles an hour, but that kind of thing. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you
yeah.
mentioned, the clarity being the key ingredient to scale or growth. And
Hmm.
I remember you mentioned this earlier, we were chatting earlier today. You said, for a lot of people getting to say a business at 30K a month, so it sort of now what, right? Like, how do you strategically move from there? So any thoughts on that sort of milestone for people?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that actually one of the navigators, Jason Belisha, at the last 3-day think tank said is, David, I don't think you understand. There's a void in the marketplace because every single course, product, training, uh, group coaching thing out there for people running an online business, when they start from nothing, when there's a side hustle or they still got their day job or whatever, or even if they focus on it, is designed what to get them to building to where they're at least 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a month in revenue. But then what? Like what are you supposed to do then? And what you said at dinner was like, well, you hire a consultant. Okay. You hire a consultant, you hire a coach, you hire an advisor, or you join a group coaching program, or you join a mastermind. But now what are you in? You're in the hiring and choosing game. You're not actually solving a problem. And you need problem solved, right? Which is once you're running a 30 to $50,000 business a month, then because you took a course, a training, or a workshop, now the person who took the course, the training, or the workshop that got you there, now you're at a level of specificity in your company that the challenges, the problems, the bottlenecks are specific to your business. And now you're not solving the problem. You're hiring and you're determining and you're picking between that advisor or that mastermind or that group coaching session or that consultant or that internal hire, right? That's a completely different thing than actually solving the problem. And I hadn't thought of it that way until Jason said that. And I'm like, holy shit. No wonder that people are buying this thing like crazy because they're like, you can just solve my problem. Like, not by one solution, but by 8 to 10 of them sitting around there competing for my to help me. And guess what ends up happening after you've gotten vulnerable with 5 to 10 experts and they're all like competing for the best solution when you finally hit upon the best solution that the person in the hot seat's ready to take. They're like, I'm committed, I'll do this. It's almost like when you watch Ted Lasso and they finally win a game. Like, yeah, you get people that normally charge $20,000 a day as a consultant, 50,000 as a VIP day, that will support that person in the hot seat as though that was their brother, their best friend, or their buddy, their college roommate. Because now there's a emotional invested interest to support that person because they want to see how the game ends.
Yeah, that's amazing. Seen it firsthand. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, David. So anything else that honestly, what an incredible opportunity. Anything else you want to add about it? Anything that we might want to mention?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity because um candidly, I've always been the serial super connector that is either strategically doing, connections or being an affiliate broker or JV manager. I had an affiliate management agency for a bunch of years, or putting people on my stage. I've been the spotlight. I've been the impresario. I've been the super connector. And I've always left it to other people to have their own offer that then once they have an offer, I connect them with a great audience. And this is the first time that I've got my own offer that I feel so proud of and so uh eager to bring to the world. And so it feels unique to be in a situation where when we were at dinner and you're like, I'll put you on my podcast, I was like, wow, that's awesome. And it's crazy because I've been in this industry for a long time, but my job has always been to get my client or my strategic partner or my business partner on the podcast to talk about the offer that they created. And so it's really exciting. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Of course. Yeah, no, my pleasure. I think I knew that even just our audience being familiar with you as a person and also just with the approach that you just walked through, I think it's just inherently valuable. And I would urge people, I know there are a lot of people listening who are maybe feel like they're plateauing in their business. And I think there's no faster way to get a incredibly fresh set of perspectives and clarity on what next steps are available to you and what your path forward can be than by going to one of these. And so just has my highest recommendation. So yeah, just wanted to add that. But yeah, David, thank you so much for being on the show and yeah, yeah, looking forward to our continuing our conversations.
Thank you, Ian.
Appreciate it.